Well, thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Welcome to Fancast, where we have a proper footy chat. It's your boy Joe. We've got some new faces. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, mate. How are you?
Very
Thanks
good.
for having me here.
The pleasure's ours. Name?
Do you have a name?
Pretty obvious. No. It's Swiz here from Supercoach Insider. So thanks for having me here, boys. It's always good to talk footy, and not just one-trick pony with the Supercoach. Most people know I'm pretty into the cricket, but love my footy chat. So, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely, especially off Richmond Tigers demolition last night. But
perfect timing.
Only reason you've dragged me in here to make fun of the Tigers.
100%. Jake, how's it going, mate?
I'm good. It's been a big week, but good to settle down now with you boys and just chat about the footy.
He's such a smooth operator, isn't he? And of course, we've got Daz. How's it going, mate?
Mate, I'm well, thank you. I'm pumped for this. This is extraordinary. We've had probably 10 minutes of the greatest off-air chat I reckon we've ever had. And if that's a theme of what's to come, mate, I'm pumped. Let's do this.
100%. Jake, please take us away because someone has left me high and dry with no run sheet here.
Yeah, we won't name him, but he's
not in the room.
He's not in the room.
Apparently supports North Melbourne, so
that probably explains why this run sheet's just all over the place.
And everyone's just cashed their over-under bet on throwing him under the bus too, which is already at about 6.5 seconds, and we just went nice and under that.
I feel like he does the game plan for North Melbourne.
Thank God he's not in the room. Oh, that was beautiful.
He will see this at some point.
He will see it at some point.
But to do it disservice, we're not going to look at the run sheet for the first topic.
Sure.
What's the biggest topic of the week, Joe?
Our biggest hope and dream that we can somehow beat Port Adelaide. They're coming off the bye. They're coming off the bye. The trend is your friend, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm dubbing it. The trend friend.
How long's their bye, though? You said before it was like
16 days.
16 days.
Since the last time they played. Because they played the Thursday night game, and then they're playing us on Saturday night. So it's 16 days.
Is that an advantage or a disadvantage, do you think?
Well, everybody says it's not a thing, but I think you go back in history, like was it Geelong was like 13, 14 years in a row where they couldn't win off the bye?
Yeah,
like,
and that's Geelong.
But it's just like, I know the mainstream media try not to make a point of it, but there's enough evidence over enough years to go, this is a thing. Like, I don't know if it's just because the players need continuity, but it just seems to happen every season.
So is that pretty much McWalter's excuse for last night?
Oh, that's what I was going with. If it wasn't for that, it would have been an 84-point difference.
What it does do, I went back and had a look. So the teams that have come off the bye, so you think of your Gold Coasts last week and such, is the first quarters are usually okay-ish for these teams. So like Hawthorn go into their bye, but I was looking at Gold Coast against Carlton, so that start off their bye, they started pretty well, okay, albeit inaccurately, but that can be your rust. Every team that's coming off the bye, their second quarters are, for lack of a better word, god-awful.
Yep.
Genuinely horrific. They gave up 9 goals. It's something like the 11 teams so far, only 2 of them have won a second quarter, and none of them have gone on to win the game. It definitely is a thing, and I think we can all agree that 4 rounds of byes can well and truly go forth and get nicked.
Why did they do that in the first place? It's not always been like that.
No, it's usually been 3
rounds.
They've had the 3 sixes.
Geelong and Gold Coast went to China, apparently, and just got the week off when no one else did. It was completely weird.
Yeah, because they used to obviously do that with the China game and the Port Gold Coast and that, but why they've done it this year, who knows? It's and even just the general fixturing, like we're crying out for Thursday night footy all season. They take it away from us, but we'll bring it back in the buys and really stretch this period out. Which
we're going to make 9 games overlap, but the 6 games, oh mate, they are going to get their own airtime. Beautiful. Yeah, I wouldn't like that job.
What would you guys like to see? What's your prefer? Because I get the players need some sort of rest, and we want that mid-season, the draft, and they're talking about maybe even a trade period and that. Yeah. So there needs to be an opportunity for that. However, stretching it out 4 weeks is ridiculous. So you guys got any thoughts on that?
Could you just do 2 weeks or something? Or?
Just do one.
Just do the one.
Yeah.
And that's
so let's take the mid-season trade out because we don't have one yet. Yeah. So it would be ridiculous to speculate. Play 12 and then on your week off you can do your Hall of Fame function. We've just had it now with Mitchell and I'm going to forget a bunch of players. So I'll probably just stop there. Jimmy Bartell as well. And then you could showcase a VFL, Sandful, Waffle game and an under-18s game. There's your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday covered. Bang, everyone gets the week off. But that's too much common sense.
Yeah,
so that was my next point. Was that's common sense talking, and that doesn't work in
doesn't
AFL
usually
world.
work with footy.
Yeah.
Like I've always thought, like, because they've said they don't want to just give that 1 week off because it's like clear air for like NRL or that. But with like the AFLW season, like the girls want it more in line with the AFL. Why couldn't you like potentially kick off the AFLW season on the bye weekend and then play, because they play a shorter season as it is.
And you get the fans there.
So
We'll all go,
so
like,
everybody would
perfect for
go free air to kick off their season, and then they can run in conjunction for the rest of the year. So you might do it, say, after round 10 or something, gives the ladies 12 rounds or whatever, and then, round 1 would be absolutely pumping for that.
If that happened, you'd need an abundance of curtain raisers, I think, because if you go from a week of no men's footy and start women's footy, and I don't want to speak for idiots out there, but I think if you segregate every game, then obviously if people are given a choice, I feel like, and we know this from numbers, the majority of people are going to go to, say, Essendon Port at the MCG, and then on the Sunday might not go to, Tullamarine Oval to watch the Essendon AFLW v Port AFLW, for example. But if we can set up a way where the first, say, maybe month might be curtain raisers and your membership can get you a ticket to both, mate, it's a good way to start the year, I think.
And you need to get some more exposure into the women's football as well, because you can't just have it be end of the season when people go away, end of the year, when people go for holidays and things like that. You know what I mean? Like, if we're trying to push for increased opportunity for women to play this amazing game of ours, it's also really important that we push forward to get their increased exposure as well. So we've given you opportunity, we've expanded the league, it's much bigger now, but we need to shed some more light on it. People, if they're not playing AFLW fantasy, it's very, not many people know all of these names, and we should know these names because it's the best sport on the planet. And these guys are all athletes, and these women are all athletes just as much as the guys are. So we need to set some more light.
Yeah. Even if you did it at the end of the year too, like that, then we just jump straight into draft talk. We jump into trade talk. So they don't even really get that
Don't
much
steal my
exposure
formula,
anyway.
mate. Don't steal my formula. That's where I'm at. Don't do that to me. I'll tell you what we should do, which would be the smart thing, is we should probably ask an AFLW player, would you want to start your season halfway through the men's? And we'd probably get a more clarified answer.
Yeah, I know.
I think they would, but compared to playing with the time until the other day, they didn't even know when their season was starting. It's just ridiculous how the AFL runs that. Like, you're meant to have a professional women's competition, and it's really badly organised from the top down. So, you feel for the players in all this. So, any idea any way that they could, run concurrently with the AFL, I think, that, as you guys were saying, like, as curtain raisers, like, as a Richmond supporter, I'd be more than happy to get there early to go watch our girls play. And we do it quite well because we're lucky having the VFL ground next to us. So you could nearly have it like there's a kind of whole day event going there, or even if it's in conjunction with one of the VFL games, and you play the VFL and then the AFLW after that. There's different ways they could work it. I think the AFL probably, they don't get as creative with the fixturing as maybe other sports do, especially like even the NRL, who's taken the odd game out to like the like country New South Wales and stuff like that. We're very structured where it has to be a big stadium. And finally, I think Gather Round was the first time we've seen the AFL try to be a little bit more flexible with stuff like this. So I think there's ways that they could do it, even if you're taking the AFLW out to the community grounds, which is making so people don't have to travel in as far. But there definitely needs to be a better way of doing stuff there.
And you can't underestimate, sorry to cut you off, Jake, but you can't underestimate the loan that the AFL took out to ANZ and NAB as well, that they've got to reach into their bag. Did I just steal your point?
No.
You gave me a,
you did. That's exactly what I was trying to say.
You gave me that look of you interrupted me and then you stole my point, you prick, which would be fair. But, the AFL have just got to get back on solid ground. But, I think it'd be the way to go, for sure.
I was going to change gears a little bit. It's not on the run sheet, but I was listening on the radio, Triple M on the way in, and Jason Dunstall, I don't know if you guys heard this as well, but he brought up something that really annoyed him about last night's game, that he wants to stamp out.
Oh, yes, the taunting.
The taunting. Now, I didn't watch the game, but he mentioned Hipwood went up to Bolter, clapped in his face or something, and gave him a lot of crap. And he thinks it's tarnishing the game. He thinks it's something that could be reportable, that needs to be stamped out. Hard for me to judge that without seeing the actual thing that Hipwood did, but
He
what are
just
your
went and
thoughts?
clapped in his face.
But
He literally went and clapped in his face,
You look like a seal.
He thinks his logic is, well, this is inviting, say, the bolter to get pissed off and then
punch.
retaliate,
Yeah.
and it's inviting
Well,
a
that's
lot
what
of...
they were talking about. I think
Yeah.
Damien Barrett was this morning saying, back in Dunstall's day, and Dermot had some comments about this as well, like they would have taking action with that. So the next play, that player is probably flawed behind that and smash it because that's there's no if a player is doing what Hipwood did yesterday, there's no way to get him back. That so it's kind of like how do you stand up? You bully when there's no way to have actions for that. But like I'm a little bit different because I saw it to my player. I couldn't care less. Like I play enough cricket where it happens a lot. Like you give send-offs and that, you get somebody out.
Hello, Ollie Robinson, if he's listening.
Right, yeah, that's it. And I think that like it's fine as long as it's not too personal or all that. You can go the racist, sexist, all that sort of other stuff, and that where you're crossing massive boundaries. But I think a bit of that, a bit of fun. That's then up to last night the Richmond players to respond. And the best way to respond, you hit that contest hard next ball, and that, and you can still pressure Hipwood. Like if that ball's to be won, not just let Hipwood get a free mark, which we pretty well did in the next play. Let's crunch him with 2 or 3 players fairly. So like I've got no issue with it. I think it's good for footy. Bit of characters in it. You can't take all the characters out of footy, and you can't take like we're already losing so much of our game and what we've had in the past.
You don't want to rip that plus the tackle, all the stuff that we've talked about already. So the fabric of the game is being tested a little bit.
I don't want to go Noel Bolter here, but he's in the example with Eric Hipwood, right? So we'll just use him. And I have no idea about Noel Bolter, never met him, don't know anything about his temperament. If that's what it takes for him to swing at his opponent, maybe grow up a little. Like I don't think we're going to get.
You played footy. It doesn't take much to piss a bloke. At indoor soccer, I could nudge a bloke and he turns and he's yelling at me, calling me all sorts of names.
Yeah, but
and he's getting me in a headlock. It happened 2 weeks ago. I got sent off. He got sent off. No, I'm serious. But nothing happened, and he's going off his head. This is indoor soccer, not competitive AFL.
I've had that in local
it doesn't take
cricket.
much.
I'm saying that to Joe, like a return after 8 years tomorrow night, and back where we used to play, you'd have the most minor things. Yeah. Somebody would, say something slightly or make a run and look like they're running at a play. All of a sudden, all in brawls because people just can't handle anything that's they might take.
It's competition.
The adrenaline gets fired in that. But
if you know a Bolter, just don't concede the goal. I know that sounds really superficial as a bloke who's sitting in a studio who's never played beyond juniors, but if you don't want the bloke taunting you, don't concede it. And if the taunting rule does come in, I'm just convinced we're just trying to kick Mason Cox out of the league. So he came into the league, he had no chance of making it, and then he came into the league, and we know, take away maybe 5 finals performances and a couple of performances on the weekend, and there are, people on social media who think he's a hack, whether that's right or not, and then you take taunting out of the game, we're effectively just trying to kick the bloke out of the country, aren't we? At what point do we just sit here and go, this is just an immigration problem now, not a footy problem?
Racism. So are we trying to stamp out sledging now?
Yeah,
is sledging no longer a thing?
And that becomes all sports, doesn't it? Because and it's obviously a lot more in cricket than it is footy.
Yeah.
But you've got to have the ability to get into people's mental minds while they're playing. And I think this is just it's not just a sports issue; it's a public issue where so many people want to react because they don't like the comments of other people saying. Grow a skin, or come up with your own witty stuff back. I think that's half the trouble. Sometimes people they don't have the the brains or just the way that they know how to respond. And I think the only way to respond is it's either wipe it out completely or I've got to get violent back at you. It's just
there's no middle ground.
And you also got to remember that the most iconic, I think, footy bit of the taunting's the shush. And Melbourne haven't got that right all year. Cozzy did it down in Geelong, Brodie Grundy did it in Adelaide, and it didn't work both times. And it adds to the theatre of the game. I do agree with you how do you separate the footy banter from your racism, sexism, yada yada. I agree that we need to be able to, as a footballing public, be able to draw a line somewhere than to say never. And that line, that's when you bring more subjective into the game, which I understand, and different players are going to react to different things. But, I mean, we can't take away the entire thing just because we're worried about players who might cross the line. Because if they cross the line, punish them, and punish them harshly.
Is it any different to, when we're talking about tackling, where it's a footy act versus non-footy act? And I know, the AFL have been punishing footy acts.
Yeah.
But if you're doing something like giving somebody, some stick about their footy performance, fine and that. Let's just not go personal. And I think that's no different to not just talking AFL, but local sport as well. And that's where a lot of the issues are because, for whatever reason, people will jump over that and start getting personal. There's no, all like Joe and I hang crap on each other all the time about footy teams and stuff like that. That's fine, but I'm not going to get personal about his goatee or his haircut or something like that.
Wow, you had those off the top of your head.
You're pretty much doing
Tell
it
us
now.
how you really feel, mate. Jeez, all right.
I mean, I think it's rude you made notes
know you
about
had
what's going on in
right.
football.
Exactly.
It's all right. Look, it's fine. It's okay. No.
This podcast
My
is
mum
sponsored by
loves me.
Kleenex. It's okay.
Yeah, sponsored by Kleenex. Yeah, wiping tears from Goatee, Manscaped, anybody else.
It looks good, mate. You look sharp.
Oh, cheers, bro. Cheers. Hopefully not as sharp as our boys will be tomorrow night against Port Adelaide. Fingers crossed. And hopefully as sharp as some wit out there. We do need some more wittiness. We do need some more comebacks and stuff. No one's going to run and start
Surely they
bumping each other, punching
in the
each other.
off season the clubs run some training sessions where it's just half the team giving shit to the other half of the
Yes.
team, and they're like, okay, you didn't respond quick enough. No, come on, let's keep going.
Bring
Not
some
smart
stand-ups in.
Hey,
Bring some
get
stand-ups
Dave
in.
Hughes to go and just give them a grill or something and review their comebacks.
Will Anderson's gone down to the Bulldogs. He's just yelling at Bont.
The team has to live. The team has to get around. And for Chief to single this out, like I know
was
we're
very
talking.
passionate.
He was
He
very
was.
passionate. It was his first crack, middle of the game. He's stamping him, he had him in his sights, and it's like that is wrong, that is bad. How could Eric Hipwood do that? I'm like, mate, you've come from such an era of football where
he specifically didn't like it because he doesn't like when. He worded it differently, but basically non-tough players.
Right.
Say Hipwood, he's not the toughest bloke going around. Like, he's doing something that if the guy retaliates, he can't back it up.
right.
It's specifically that I think that annoyed him.
I
So if
think
it's a
that's
tough
it,
bloke,
yeah.
if it's Bolter going up to Hipwood and doing it,
Yeah.
he's probably okay with it.
Yeah,
There's the answer.
I think the ones with looked like Luke Parker.
Yeah.
And that was
yeah,
yeah.
with the duck and that, and nobody had a problem with Luke Parker doing it because he's.
Oh, no, they
Because
did.
he's a-
No, you're not on Twitter enough, clearly, if you think no one had a problem with
I had
that.
no issue with it because he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
And he'd be one of the toughest players in the AFL. You take out a few of the Essendon flogs out there who probably did, or who were.
Again, pointing at Joey. Okay, man, we're going to have to get you.
We can swap seats if you.
I gave him a brief, overview of what this is.
Yeah.
He's just gone like, oh, excellent, yes, let's go.
It just said hurt me in big bold letters.
It's all right.
Funny
He's-
because it seemed like at the time, Twitter did, but a lot of
Yeah.
the media had no problem with Luke Parker doing it at the time. Where now, because it's Hipwood, all of a sudden we've got a problem with it.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll tell you what we do need to do. If Bolter took a contested mark, say the next stoppage, before he takes his kick, he needed to clap back at him or something. Like,
100%.
let's make this equal.
I really wish they
would.
just put Bolter on Hipwood for the rest of the game
Yeah.
to see what happens.
100%.
Just really give him that one-on-one and go beat him, and that's it. You get the points there. Even
Yeah.
if we lose on the scoreboard, you can feel good about yourself.
And I think that's what went underrated in the Carey-Jakovic matchup as well, because they never punched on. You think of like Dermy and Danny Frawley when they were players, they used to punch on, or Gary Ablett Sr. or Tony Lockett just used to punch blokes for fun. But those two specifically respected each other enough that they went at it. And I can't find vision of they might have a jumper tussle or something like that. But we're talking like there was nothing even close to a brawl with those two at all. And it's still the most talked about centre-half forward, centre-half back combination of all time in terms of opponents. So
exactly.
Now we have the jumper punches now. Now we've got the jumper punches. It's
they're
fine.
tough.
We can...
They're tough. Can't
stand
that's
the
tough,
jumper
man.
punch.
yeah, but grabbing someone's jumper doesn't excuse the top half of your knuckle hitting his
Yeah, that's
chin.
right.
I know, how is that not how is that not something?
How is it
that's-
not reversed?
Yeah.
It's right in front of the umpire as well. And I thought, I had nothing to see here.
Right in front of me.
I was robbed. I mean, and it caused an 81-point turnaround. So Lincoln McCarthy's a genius.
Absolutely, yeah. No, these were the reasons we lost last night for sure.
All right. Well, look. To be honest, your loss last night looks very, very small compared to a team's loss from last week.
Oh.
And this is a big,
You're only
probably,
half as bad.
Probably the top.
Yeah.
Not even really. That's actually a fact. But 171-point loss West Coast to Sydney. What's going on with West Coast? What can they do? What do we all think?
I've been calling this for 2 seasons. Like obviously we talk more Supercoach on our pod, but I've had West Coast picked as the Wooden Spooners for 2 seasons, and
Yeah, same.
I just thought their senior players we're always going to drop off a cliff. Now I can understand teams, they win the premiership, they have another crack while you've got the senior guys there, and then no difference to like the Tigers did, the Hawks did. Some of those senior guys who have probably taken pay cuts to win premierships. Okay, you're at the end of your career. We're going to make sure you're well looked after, play out the last couple of seasons, and we're going to overpay you to make up for that. So I can understand how that can happen, and then how it all goes wrong with. And I think there has been a little bit of stubbornness from behind the scenes where they're like, we're better than kind of where we are. We don't need to bring in the kids, and you find yourself in this situation. So now it's like, where do you go from here? Because I think they do need to probably move some of these senior players, especially the ones that might have currency, like a Barras, who, if they paid some of his salary and went to, say, Sydney or St Kilda, or a few clubs that need that centre-half back, even
Nick
you
Nat.
guys could do that. Yeah, Nick Nat's another one. Elliot Yeo.
Doesn't have currency, mate. He's made of tissue paper.
Yeah, there's a couple of clubs up the top that could do with, like, maybe that defensive midfielder as that security blanket. If they had if you maybe say hypothetically like a Collingwood who you win it, or there's an opportunity to have a second crack. Elliot, come here for. West Coast is going to pay half or most of your salary. We'll flick you back a second round pick because you're paying the salary for him. And that's a break class situation in case Tom Mitchell or Pendles or something like that went down.
Insurance policy. Luke Dunstan to Melbourne. Right. That's what came to mind for me.
Exactly. So there's some senior guys there that could definitely be really beneficial for other clubs. But this is the problem then. They're already getting smashed by 170 points. The Saints probably should do a number. Next week, Brisbane. That's the big one. The West Coast coming off a 6-day break.
Is that
Brisbane?
At the
yeah.
Oh
so they're travelling.
You cannot bet on Brisbane at the moment.
They're
travelling. $0.000002.
Last night.
That's right. So they're
correct.
travelling off 6 days, West Coast, and Brisbane are going to have like a 10-day break leading into that match. And
that 190-point all-time victory is under serious threat. Yeah.
So, and that's with West Coast with senior guys. So what happens if they do get rid of these guys and play more kids?
It's going to get
a lot worse.
And I want to go back a few years when they won the flag. They gave up 3, I think, first-round picks for Tim Catley. And to be honest, that's not being talked about enough. I think that's failed.
It goes under the radar because
the
blokes that were picked, and I'm not saying West Coast would have gone the exact same 3 players, but those 3 blokes that haven't turned out to be champions.
Have not at all.
But and as much as I sit on the fence of that, it was this, that, or the other, they could have picked, player A instead of player B. Yada, yada. I understand that, and I agree with your point. West Coast's biggest problem for mine at the moment is there is no leadership accountability at that football club at all.
Who's captain?
Exactly. It's Luke Shuey.
Yeah.
Is it Luke Shuey?
It's Luke
I thought it
Shuey.
was Shannon Hearn.
No, it's Luke Shuey, who apparently gave them an almighty spray after the game that we didn't find out about until 4 days after. I'm not saying the public
Last
needs
week.
to know everything. Yeah. 171, and he was the only Eagle that was good. He had 26, 511 metres gained, and he looked really annoyed coming off the ground, which is what you want to see. I just feel so sorry for everyone on that list, 21 and under.
It's a hard thing because if you're an 18-year-old right now, or 17-year-old, especially your parents, you're going. This and it's a bit different than like the Giants and the Suns. As much as some players might have not wanted to move there, you could still see what the AFL is going to invest in the building blocks and that. Even like North Melbourne, you can see what they're trying to do. So, but for a club here who hasn't actually hit rock bottom yet, and your kid sitting here in Victoria going, my child's going to get drafted there, play the next 2-3 years, and they're just going to get smashed every week. I don't want my kid going there. And that's going to be the problem.
If Marek, the mid-season draft player...
We found out why he was crying in the pub then when he got drafted.
I'm going to shipped off the West Coast.
And this is the balance. Like someone like him is because this might be his only opportunity to play AFL. But if you've got a high pick who, and the main one everyone's talking about is Harley Reid. But we don't know if they'll split the picks of that. But there's still, whoever ends up being who goes there. Like this is a decision where it could be a Jason Horne-Francis, but multiple Jason Horne-Francis after a year going, get me out of this place. I don't want to be here. There's no leadership. We're getting smashed every week. Why do I want to? And a lot of the people forget with a lot of these high 18-year-olds, most of their junior career, they've been winners the entire time. Like they're the dominant player. They play school footy. They dominate that. Helbury, Carey, they play for the big schools. And then all of a sudden you've come into an AFL system, yay, I've got a contract, but I was going to get one anyway because, I'm that highly rated. And now, like, every week I'm rolling up, and like 4 games they've lost of the last, 7 or 8 by over 100 points, including to your mob.
Yeah.
Which, it's not like they've been playing the Collingwoods, Brisbane's, Melbourne's getting smashed by 150 points. They're playing
They were actually
Hawthorn.
good against Collingwood.
Yeah, well, actually,
surprisingly.
But they
they've
lost
gone-
to 16th at the time by 117
that
points, and they
was-
lost
that
to
was the
15th
first.
at the time by
By
171.
So now what's going to happen next week when they play one of the informed teams in Brisbane?
Mercy rule?
and
You
we're-
thinking
mercy rule.
baseball style?
And we're talking about this is going to get worse next year. Yeah, who'd want to be a kid going
They
out
can
to
only
that
hope
team?
Dunkley gets rested next week because of his calf. It's probably the only thing that's holding back a 200
It's
point
going to make
loss.
no difference
No.
at all.
Nothing.
So they'll only lose by 160 now.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to 200.
Yeah,
Yeah,
personally,
yeah.
I'm going to be shattered. But
What did you think of them coming out pretty early in the week and basically, just shutting down any sort of speculation about sacking Simpson? They came
can't
out, they
afford to
did
replace
the
him.
press release.
Yeah.
They can't afford to do that.
Nope.
But there is the fitness guy or someone that at the end of the year
they-
is going to take the fall. It's like, really, fitness is the issue?
My only issue, like, does sacking Simpson help in any way? And what coach but then what coach, like Adam Uze's been, say, the next one always on the cab.
Yeah.
And yes, he might sit there and go, this is my only opportunity to coach. But if you're really outside of that, any credentialed coach, you're not going, like Dimmer's not going there.
Dimmer's not gonna go there. He wants to win.
Anybody else that's got, like, even they could ask Brett Ratton, who's, doing a good job as caretaker.
King of the
He
rebounds at the
he
moment,
Still,
Brett
he
Ratton.
still wouldn't be like, no, I'm not going over there.
Rats
I-
has had 3
Yeah,
tries.
that's
He's not
right.
going to West Coast
Yeah, that's
for a
right.
fourth.
And I'm not going over there to, just get belted for 2 years and develop some players like that. They're not going to get good candidates putting their hand up to coach them. So may as well just stick with Simpson. They've got a massive contract anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, I disagree with that. Alistair Clarkson walked into Hawthorn after we finished 15th and 15th. And I'm not saying they're going to find the next Clarko by no means. He is the outlier amongst all outliers. But, you look at the draft this year, Jinby looks a player. Elijah Hewitt, we don't know yet. We still don't know. Campbell Chesser was their first round pick from last year. He looks like a fish out of water. And people might go, oh, he's bad, he's good. We actually don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't.
Yeah.
They haven't had, whether it's through availability of your Nick Nats or form with your Andrew Gaffs, and I don't mean to pick on those 2 players, but, Hawthorn got rid of Mitchell and O'Meara because their core had already played a year of footy, at least. So, the Mitchell and O'Meara thing happened, but Will Day had been on the list for 4 years. Jai Newcombe had come into his own. Jimmy Warple had... So,
there was
whilst they were getting rid of their, mature players, and now Hawthorn have only got 1 player over 30 on their list, it's not as if we had 24 kids underneath that had not played AFL footy or good AFL footy before that suddenly had to learn on the fly. Whereas if West Coast do the mass culling that we think they're going to do, I agree, they're screwed.
Yeah.
They're screwed. We're
That's
talking
why-
like university levels of screwed
That's why
back in
I'm
the
thinking,
40s.
like, they're paying Simpson anyway. Let him just sit there for another year and let him cop that, and then look at maybe, because by then, like, the worst will be done. Then there might be a chance that another coach will go, well, this is appealing because you've got 20, 50 games into these kids, and we're going to start tracking back up the top of
But wouldn't you rather your 20, 21-year-old kids learn from a young coach how to play footy rather than the same voice that they're getting now?
Well,
say, yeah.
but then these guys probably haven't had Simpson coach them anyway. So, I guess it works both ways. At least Simpson's his experience. He's taken a team to a premiership. He does know his stuff.
The
they
issue
don't
is,
have
though,
time
if
to
some of the
waste.
senior players are sick of Simpson or sick of his voice,
Yeah.
that'll stem down to the youth.
That's the
and then
hard
they'll
thing
be
to
like,
do,
well,
yeah.
these guys aren't respecting our coach. I'm not going to respect him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's how impressionable 18-year-olds are.
Yeah, the footage on first crack of Noah Long and Tim Kelly in the forward 50, and then there was a stoppage in the defensive 50, and Noah Long had beaten even some Sydney blokes back, and Tim Kelly hadn't moved. It was, well, what a bad example Tim Kelly's setting for a guy like Noah Long. Well, firstly, Noah Long's got to do that or his career's over. Tim Kelly's a more established player. But Tim Kelly's looking at the scoreboard, he's thinking, we packed up my family for family reasons. He did leave Geelong because of family reasons. So it wasn't as if he just packed up and went, I'm sick of you, Geelong.
Right.
He went home for good, honest reasons. And I think, as 4 blokes sitting here, if we knew our family was in the kind of situation they were in, we all would have done the exact same thing. So I'm really glad that he did that. He's looking at the scoreboard thinking, it took me until I was 26 to get into the AFL, however old that he was, got this amazing start with Geelong. I had to go home. I'm looking at the scoreboard of the SCG and I'm putting up with this. Really? This is where my career's at right now? That's the problem. That is where you bring a new coach in. All right, they lose by 120 instead of 170, but they're progressing towards something. Adam Simpson's not going to be the next premiership coach.
Yeah,
get the next bloke in as quickly as you can and find out whether he is or not.
They also need to get the next bunch of draft picks in as well, because in a few years, Tassie's going to suck them all up. So they have to do it ASAP.
This is the only good thing about it for West Coast supporters that's happening now. Because if this was them in 3 or 4 years' time, there's no coming back from that.
Can you imagine right now if Harley Reid was going to Tasmania instead of West Coast and they couldn't split, it's going to be incredible the gap between what you could get for pick 1 and pick 2. For first dibs, you would offer a ransom, and then for pick 2, you just drop the bag off in a bin or something and just go, you can have it if you want, mate, but that's fine. It's incredible.
So a couple of the highly rated talents this year are from Tasmania. So that's going to be interesting to see if they actually fall down a little bit further than what they might, because everyone knows the AFL's going to do everything to get these 2 kids back to Tassie in 5-6 years' time. So it'll be interesting to see, instead of them going, say, maybe picks 5 to 10, do they slip back into the teens because the club's going, we might lose these guys because these could be 24-year-olds face of Tasmania.
True, they don't want to get them.
Yeah, but also if you're Tassie, you're not only drafting Tassie kids.
You're not only, but
either.
But if you've got 2 really highly touted ones, these could become the face of Tasmania when they're in their prime.
That could be.
So you've got to, so that might muck up West Coast drafting again, and that's why all the talk is West Coast, want to try to get these home talents, because where they're leaving to only Fremantle, so you've got a better chance of keeping them. You get the odd one who might still leave Perth to go elsewhere, but it's probably less likely.
But you don't need to have Tassie-born talent to be the face of the Tasmanian team. You look at Buddy Franklin, who was like the face of the Swans for a bit. You look at Gaz, Gary Jr., he was the face of Gold Coast, and he couldn't be further away from Gold Coast even if he tried, right? His Geelong loyalty.
But you do have to ask the question, was Gary Ablett to Gold Coast actually a good thing? They didn't play finals.
Oh, they were pretty close.
They would have. That year he did his shoulder, but they were
flying, and they would have made it. I completely agree with you, but as Gold Coast sit here now, their best result, whether it's under Stewie Dew, whether it's this year or next year, Ablett wouldn't have been there at all.
It's a good question over the comparison between the two.
Yeah.
And I know the AFL have said they're looking at the development and the setup of Gold Coast versus GWS, and also Port Adelaide Fremantle, so they don't make the same mistakes when Tassie come in. And we've seen the Giants be very successful with how they've done it. And they, I felt, the senior guys that they picked up originally, so like Gold Coast outside of Gas, I think it was like your Danny Stanleys, and you had guys who were like 30, 31, 32, where GWS targeted more those 26, 27-year-olds.
They had Sheets.
They Griffin.
Heath Shaw was massive coming in. Dean Brogan, Luke Power. These guys, Stevie J went up there when they were hitting their prime.
And maybe that's even when we're talking about how unsuccessful West Coast, and you brought it up about their leadership and lack of leadership. Maybe West Coast actually have to go out and target a couple of really good leaders who might be in their 28, 29, 30, maybe even in their 30s twilight, and go, here's a whole lot of money, but we want you to come here and set up our club. We might have to give you coaching jobs afterwards, just so, as you said, show these young guys the way to play footy.
So essentially, in 5 years from running a flag, they've turned into Gold Coast and GWS from when they first came.
They actually have.
How does a club do that?
That is unbelievable.
They have heaps of money. They have over 80, 90,000 members, whatever it is.
The waiting list.
What makes me laugh?
Ridiculous that they're in this position.
Oh, 100%.
What makes me laugh, though, is we keep thinking the draft is the answer. They've drafted horrifically. Apart from the last 2 years, if you go back through their draft, and again, hey, I'm not saying I could have drafted better. I'm a 25-year-old idiot in the studio, right, who thinks he knows, but effectively I know that I don't. But there is a department that is getting paid very, very good money, and it's either the recruiting guys didn't do their job, the development guys didn't do their job, or both. Now, if those two things aren't fixed, you could draft Harley Reid all you want, and in 2 years, if he hasn't come on in talent, something has gone disastrously wrong.
Well, the hard thing with recruiting teams, and this doesn't get brought up enough, they don't get judged until 5-10 years later. And most of the time they've either moved on, or they can blame it on, they didn't have the right development coaches, or the players didn't put in the work that they needed to do. And so often I think that team is such an important team going forward for your club, and working in conjunction with development teams. And even I think I was listening to Brendan Goddard the other day. And it's great that he's back involved in St Kilda, but he's like the development coach, and I think he's like part time there. And you would think that's an important spot where I'd be investing so much into your recruiting, your developing, and it shows like Geelong's probably been the hallmark of how you recruit, how you trade, having the best setup behind. Off field, and it happens. They get the job done on field. So I think West Coast, that's probably their biggest thing. Need to sort those departments out first, and that will hopefully translate to what they need to do on field.
Their CEO, the one that we got now, he was originally with West Coast, and the reason why we got him was because he was completely burnt out. He had to get leave. He had to take a break from the club because he was tasked with so many different roles in administration and footy operations and things like that over there at West Coast Eagles, that he dropped the job and was like, I can't do this anymore. We brought him over here to Victoria, like in a much more defined role what he's going to have, and now he's in charge of now he's our CEO. So I was really happy that we got him, and from what I could read online on Big Footy, and various platforms online, a lot of the West Coast fans are also very disappointed that they lost him because he was someone that they really respected and thought that he was really good. And now they're just losing good people off the field. And that's, I think, if your off field is in shambles, it very regularly would transfer on field. Because Collingwood, they're flying on field. As amazing as they are on field, a lot of it has to come from their off-field acquisition.
And their off-field
that coach's box is insane. Fly gets all the credit, and of course, when you're the head coach, you get most of the credit, also cop most of the blame. But you look at that coach's box. They added Bolton. They added what's his name, Lepich again. So they've added some great people in that coach's box. St Kilda, your coach's box is insanely good. It's not just Ross. You've also got
Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And the soft cap would be a really good excuse if it wasn't the same for everyone else.
Well, we're paying over. We're paying over the limit. We're paying the tax.
200% tax on every
so that we
dollar
can,
after 500,000 or something.
West Coast is the one club that could do that.
Yeah, exactly. They're the ones that can afford it.
Which is amazing. It'll be very interesting to track what they do come into that draft and trade period, because we haven't heard any of the players yet saying they want to go. And I think if there could be a big exodus, and it depends on if other clubs even want those players. And when you look at Shuey and Duggan, I think Duggan needs to be in the same conversation as Shuey on the weekend. Doesn't get as many stats as him, but you could see he was emotionally drained from that game because he was doing everything he could possibly do to keep West Coast in that. And do heart and soul players like that go, well, I'm still good enough. Should I start talking to other clubs and that, or do I go across the road to Fremantle and
it'd be hard.
And it would, because a lot of these players, because they want to be one club players, they're premiership players, they love the club, they love the fans, everything about it. But at the same time, do you just, as you're saying, Tim Kelly looking up the scoreboard? Is that how you want to spend your career? Think about you guys in your own jobs. Is that if the company was starting to go under or down, how long are you going to stick around for that company? Or, I'm going to be starting exploring other offers elsewhere.
Another thing with Kelly as well, look up their scoreboard. They're getting absolutely smashed. And I was used by Geelong to purchase Jeremy Cameron. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like...
I'd be stunned if that's in his head, but...
I know.
I think the fans...
I'm in his head. They're putting these thoughts in, but, it's so stark.
I think the fans were talking about, not rocking up for the first quarter on the weekend against us or something like that.
Which would suit you perfectly, by the way. Oh, we really need to drown out the home crowd, guys. They're not here. Okay. Let's do this.
That would help a lot. I am actually quietly nervous about the response, because you never know with these sort of games. It's all the emotion, all the anger, get it out. They have to win at some point.
Yeah, I respect you a lot, but it would be the most St Kilda thing of all time.
It would be.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, that's why we're worried about it.
That's why I was worried about it, because these guys smashed them by over 100 points. And you were 17th at the time.
That was
16th. Oh, 17th,
yeah. You were 17.
Yeah.
You were above them, and you beat them by over 100 points. And we're going over there. I'm like, oh no, we're screwed. This would be classic Essendon to lose this game. And we also won by 50 points, despite them bringing all that pressure in the first quarter. Just survive the first wave. They'll get five injuries.
Yeah, but you bring up a good point as well, because you won a game of football in a state by 8.5 goals, and you were mocked by not winning by enough.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous. That's as big of a degenerative statement as we could make against West Coast.
I'm getting comments already saying, Jakey, if we don't win by over 100 points, I'm considering it a loss. I'm like,
I'm on a couple of St Kilda supporter group chats, and it's unreal.
Sorry.
Like, and it's interesting to see already the comments that have been building up.
It's either end, isn't it? It's like, oh my God, we're going to lose this, or we need to win this by 15 goals, or I'm not happy.
Yeah, and there's no win for you guys. And the worst thing is, what happens if it's the other response from them, and they go the whole like line in the sand, we're going to get really physical. And St Kilda can't be risking suspensions and defending themselves that way, because they've got bigger fish to fry for the rest of the season. For
sure.
Who is West Coast's Richie Randenberg, though?
Yeah, this is it.
GWS.
I could see Shuey or Duggan, the passion with them, just charging through someone to make a statement in that first bounce. What do you got to lose? Like,
Turns back.
Can you imagine if Oscar Allen was not at that football club? Holy hell!
Now that's one actually an interesting one, because I got in a chat about with somebody about this week. He's got to be like he could still. It's probably gonna be hard now with the way Danaher and Tex was going, but yeah, the fact that he's up there in the Coleman, he could still make a run for it and that if things somehow went his way, but it's going to be tough. But he's still kicking his 3-4 a week presenting. What's he worth for another club, especially if you're in the window? Like we talk about Collingwood, as good as they are, they don't really have a key forward. You've got
McStay will come back though.
You got someone like Richmond who don't have a key forward, who, Dusty's coming off his contract, Cochin, Jack, so they're going to have a whole lot of money.
Yeah, they'll get Himmelberg though.
Yeah, well, potentially. But let's just say it's Oscar Allen, like these clubs go, well, you're clearly getting smashed there. What's 1.2, 1.3 million to come and play for a big club in Melbourne?
You don't have the assets to give up, though. It's a good point, though.
Yeah.
Like, I think a good example, you guys are actually going too well to bring you into this conversation. I reckon the Bombers are as well. Hawthorn have got pick 3. I'm giving that up for Oscar Allen.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I know there are Hawks fans on Hawks supporter groups that think I'm crazy for this.
Pick 3. I'd be pick 3 future first, and if they want some other player that you can throw, Oscar Allen is the Josh Kennedy of the. He's a gun. 24 years old.
He and Mitch Lewis together. I'm sorry, we nearly play finals next year.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
That's the delusion that's going on in my head, which I like.
It makes it it completely makes sense where there's got to be, and I don't think, again, it's not talked about probably because West Coast being in Perth. But he is definitely a target that for these clubs to be thinking, this guy's got to be gettable.
This is a long chat on West Coast, by the way.
They're all gettable.
Everyone's gettable. I mean, that's why Caltumi and Ryland Everett are getting it done.
Except Adam Simpson, he's locked in. He's.
Do you mind if I go with 2 questions?
Yeah,
okay. So I don't interrupt the flow. So we'll yes, no, and a little bit of an explanation. Now, my latest YouTube video was on this, so I'm going to go last, so it doesn't look like I'm self-promoting. Do you trade pick 1?
No.
I'll ask the second question concerns around what that would take, but just yes or no, is pick 1 on the table for you?
If I'm
West Coast.
West Coast?
West Coast, yep. Do you trade pick 1? Do you look to trade pick 1? Would you think about it?
I would think about it.
Yeah.
They need as much. They need as much talent as they possibly can get.
We're not talking like 6 first-round picks. We're saying something in the realm of I'd go more than that. But is pick 1 on the table for you?
100%.
Pick 1 on the table for you.
Yeah.
Okay, didn't expect to be the odd one out, but okay.
Oh, you reckon to keep him?
Yep.
Keep him.
Yep.
He's the best.
Yep.
By a long way.
Yep. Not that, but what you brought up Jason Horne-Francis before. They're going to get a much bigger bounty for him once he's played senior footy than they are on potential. The only way they would get less for him after he's played footy, and knock on wood, this doesn't happen, is if he does 2 ACLs. No. It's as simple as that. Jason Horne-Francis got pick 2, pick 3, 2 picks in the 40s and a future first. So 3 first-round picks and 2 picks in the 40s that have both worked out pretty okay. I think one of them was the young small forward. Anyway, that doesn't matter because I'll rack my brain. But do you think West Coast, we'll use that deal, do you think right now a team is going to give up 3 firsts and 2 thirds? For pick 1 right now.
I think it'll be 3 firsts.
I think they definitely would give up 3 firsts.
3 firsts and 2 thirds? Because you've got to remember, that was a 4-trade deal. That was a 4-team trade as well.
Yeah, I can see the three
someone.
firsts.
For sure, I can see the three
But
firsts.
I could see definitely a bidding war happening because there's enough teams. Like if the Bombers, I think you're going to probably sign these players now in your parish, in your
Yeah, I
Redmonds.
think so,
But
yeah.
if it was looking like you're losing one, you're going to have the 3 picks. Giants having, Richmond's pick and already their own pick, which are going to be quite high.
5,
plus
7 and
next year-
43.
yeah, plus next year's one as well. The Giants are definitely in a bidding war for their, we know the Melbourne are.
They're
so
the
you've got-
only two, though. It's only GWS and Melbourne. At this point, we know that
What about
teams
you
can
guys?
manipulate.
You guys wouldn't trade up for
We've
it?
got pick 3, and then we've got other teams.
I think you
picks.
want that other.
So we've got Sydney second and the Bulldogs third.
I'm trying to think of the small forward that's available this year.
Nate Caddy, Zane Dersman, Nick Watson.
Yeah,
the Wizard.
And that, I think,
Yeah, the
you
two
got-
blokes that aren't small forwards, and then the actual answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
next one. Yeah. I think the Hawks are more likely leaning towards him anyway. So
Yeah. I
I
mocked
don't
him
think
to the Hawks
interested
in my
him.
mock trade video, yeah.
He's something different.
Him and Tyler Brockman for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yes,
we have to
please.
see what Josh Russelli's done at Adelaide to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pick one's on the table. What does it take? What's the least you'll take for pick 1?
Oh, 3 firsts.
3 firsts. So 3 firsts, and you're 50-50 on yes.
Yeah.
Straight. Okay.
3
Fair,
first,
yeah.
but 2 of them have to be in the top 10.
So GWS.
So GWS.
Correct.
Pretty much. Okay. Fair enough.
Similar to that, I would say.
Yeah.
I would take 2 in the top 20. I reckon.
2 in the top
10
20.
and,
2 in the
10
top.
10s and then the
Okay. Yeah.
teens, yeah.
Would you pick a random team here? Would you take one top 10, one in the teens, and a player? We'll say a decent
Yeah.
player. Well,
Yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
gee, the
Well,
caliber of
player,
player is really important.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was the other, like the Giants were thinking, because they've still got like your Canelios and Kellys and some really good senior players, do they look like saying, GWS, you can have Oscar Allen, we'll take Cadman back in part of this trade?
I'm not doing that if I'm
this-
West Coast.
No way.
Anyway,
This is going to be very juicy at the end of the
this
year.
podcast
But I
3.5
just
hours.
wanted
This
to
is trade
I wanted to
radio
throw
now.
that one out there anyway, Cal, too. If you listen to
I was
this,
going to say, eat your heart out, Cal.
that's the one I want you discussing this week, Oscar Allen versus
that
Cadman.
comes up, if that comes
that's
up.
right.
Let's go on a bit of a lighter
Yeah,
note.
let's go.
Yeah.
Do we all have second favourite teams? Like, and when the Tigers aren't playing, who are you enjoying? And
Well,
who do you want to succeed?
This is funny. My wife is as passionate Essendon and she can possibly get. She's at every game. She'll be there tomorrow night with her mum. I hate the Bombers with an absolute passion, but I'm there at most Bomber games.
Yeah.
Joe's just French kissing his
Yeah,
scarf
that's
for
right.
those that aren't paying attention.
But I can't stop. Like I'll go with all the games with her, but I can't sit there. I can't warm to them at all. My second is Gold Coast. Like from the moment they've come in, I've wanted to see them go well. I've got a signed Gary Ablett top from the Gold Coast up on my wall in my man cave. I was actually up at the Gold Coast Geelong game earlier this year. Apart from the fact they always beat Richmond, which is really frustrating, but no, I'd really like to see the Suns do well.
Joe?
That's a good question. I haven't got an official second favourite team. I guess, though, because my dad watches me tonight. He's a Hawk, so I'll say I'm happy for
Can I
him.
French
I'm
kiss
happy
your scarf like him?
I'm happy for him
Yeah.
when the Hawks win. I'm not happy the Hawks won. I'm happy for him that he's happy. So if I was to actually pick the proper second favourite team, I'd struggle to pick one because I hate every other club. I love my boys so much.
Carlton, and I don't want them winning either.
It's
So.
just, anyone but not
I'm
Carlton.
actually glad we've gone this long in the episode without saying that word.
Carlton.
It's brilliant.
You have to
losing
bring him
all
up.
meaning.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you that the team that I hate the most is Collingwood.
Yeah,
thing-
I
that's
hate the most.
expected.
Well, the thing, I think, to answer your question, first of all, my missus is Richmond, and what that means is I want
She
Richmond to win.
sounds like a lovely person.
And if she's listening, she is. No, and even if she's not, she's the best.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
I need to stop giving her crap on
We'll edit that
microphone,
out.
seriously, or she's gonna
Shout out
think
to all
I'm.
the ladies in our life.
Nah, she's the best, man. We have the best banter. I hope Richmond win every game but the granny. And I can only be honest with that for 2 reasons. One, she doesn't get to be happier than I do. That's not how a relationship works. We both have to be sad at the same time in equal measures. But
that's
when it comes to the second team, I think Hawthorn aren't going to, not to breaking news, guys, Hawthorn are not going to make the 8 this year. I know.
Stop it.
Cash out right now.
I will walk out of this studio. But when we hit finals time, the team that I want to win the grand final is just the one with the biggest drought. I love a fairy tale.
100%.
So obviously, if the Saints make it, it's probably going to be the Saints in this scenario because it's been so long, and that's just.
Did I hear you say drought? Did I hear you say drought? Come on, you also love me. Then you should love my boys.
Your finals drought ending. 10,000 days. We want it.
You two are the best footy memes at the moment. Can't win a final and finish in ninth. This is beautiful.
Yeah, ninth man.
What about you, mate? I figured you asked the question. No one had asked it back, but
I was on the run sheet. I'm just following the run sheet, man.
that's okay.
I was the Tigers. My second favourite team was the Tigers.
Till we start winning flags and stuff.
Until you start winning flags and the fans went stupid.
Yeah.
Just enjoy it. Don't get all arrogant. I know you're probably modest, but there's a lot of them that have changed over the years.
They're all terrible except
I don't
the one
know.
I'm looking at.
Yeah, except the one I'm looking at that I just met tonight. But I'm assuming he's a great bloke. But
He is when he's not bagging me.
I loved Richmond. I loved watching Richmond, especially when Matty Richardson was there. The latter years when he almost won the Brownlow.
That was a great year.
I loved watching Richard.
I was going to run nude through Eltham that night. we always got together to watch the Brownlow with that, and we were like.
And may the people of Eltham sleep comfortably.
I'm a rich old man.
We're in Eltham, but we used to always have the drinking game. So the favourite, you drink your normal stuff and that, and you'd shot for your outlier. Yeah. And I've been stitched up 2 years in a row, and I think that year was like, I had Richo and that, and I was hammered. Absolutely. Like, one of my mates was the same, and I think I forget who was making a run there, and he's come to, and he's like, Richo's won. And I'm like, no, he didn't, mate. And you go, like, you passed out while he was there.
That's when it counts. My uncle had a game like that, except he got Matt Prittis the year he won it because he was at $41.
Yeah.
And he don't reckon he remembers anything about that grand final week, and I can't say that I blame him. That was extraordinary.
Brownlow drinking nights. What a game.
Mate, we should play that one time.
Good fun, mate. That's good
Do
fun.
it live on the show.
100%.
Have a live Brownlow medal. Just
Right here.
Dave, that's on the
Dave, our producer's just gone absolutely nuts.
So the other dangerous question that we've got to ask, can we move on from West Coast?
They can't move on from themselves.
Just me as a topic, because I've just realised we've spent a considerable amount of time on something
We
that's
were just
terrible.
talking about hated clubs.
Yeah.
The last one we'll talk about, it's a bit biased because it's my club.
Sure.
But it's been a bit of a topic. Mm-hmm. A lot of people have, I guess, said that our season's almost potentially over at 8 and 6, fifth on the ladder, because we've lost 2 in a row. One to Richmond, where I thought we played quite well, and we gave it to you, and it was a big night for your boys, for Koch, so that was always going to be tough for us. And then we played Brizzy, and on the surface now, looking at how they played last night, 28 points to them. I'm like, okay, maybe it's not as bad as what it looked.
Yeah.
But some people are basically saying the season's
it's
done. I'm like, is that an overreaction?
It's a bit ridiculous. I'm not that warm to the Saints playing, and maybe it's just because of the Higgins and Butler thing. So I'm a little dirty that they play for you guys and not us. But
you let them go.
Yeah, well, no, we not really. Well, we let Butler go. Higgins was always going to go play for the team. He supported his, as a child. But yeah, like I can understand why the media are saying that, but at the same time, you've lost to, as you said, Richmond, especially with the conditions coming. You're never going to get us once it started raining. Brisbane, who are flying at the moment. The question is, who's actually going to replace you? Like Geelong, I think, should make the 8, and then with the wins that they have, and if they can get on a run, their full team, we can understand that. But at the same time, the Dogs are no guaranteed to make it. I think you're in a battle there with the Dogs and Adelaide, the Bombers. But you still really need, I think, a second team challenging. I think St Kilda's got enough winnable games there, especially starting this week, where you should get 4 points and percentage out of that, which is going to, what's that, put you 9 and 6. So all of a sudden, not just Geelong, but be it Richmond, which is unlikely now, who else is sitting out of there? Like the Gold Coast, probably unlikely. Swans, what they're probably done after that. So you're talking about maybe only then Fremantle, and their form's shaky enough as it is.
Yeah,
so I don't get, people are saying, because St Kilda have lost a couple of games, but I don't think the teams below them are actually going to replace them, win enough games to replace you guys. So, you might only finish 8th because, then probably, some of those other teams will get on and maybe a better run. Yeah. But, I think it'd be something would dramatically go wrong for St Kilda to miss the 8.
that 4-0 start is a blessing and a curse, because since St Kilda are 4-6, and I think if you take that first month out, and I don't do this flippantly, if someone had said to me pre-season after 10 rounds instead of the 14, St Kilda are going to be 4-6, I'd go, yep, met expectation. But when you start the year 4-0, you get sucked into the AFL media vacuum of you better be damn perfect, and we're waiting for you to fall off instead of celebrating what has been a good year. I agree with the fact that I think Adelaide and Essendon make it because they both play North and West Coast on the run home. Then North could pinch one of those games. I'm not denying that.
St Kilda play North, Hawthorn. They've got Carlton, who are
we've beaten St Kilda so far this year. So
I'm pretty confident second time around.
Them are some fighting words.
But that's I think this time's Marvel.
We beat them at Marvel.
They were at Marvel as well last time.
Wow. And then
talk about outliers.
And then you've got.
I mean, rude, but fair.
And the Suns is another 50-50 game. Like, how is everybody just penciling that? I know it's up in the Gold Coast, but you're penciling that to be a Gold Coast win. Like, there's no guarantee. Like, their forms is flaky as everything.
And it's at Marvel.
And it's Marvel, which we don't play well at Marvel at all.
But you do now. Dimmer's not there anymore, so the players might enjoy.
There's no soul, though.
There's no soul in that place. Hate that place.
The actual sitting on the fence answer is if St Kilda are good enough, they'll get there. Like that's the good thing that St Kilda have got on their side is no one's going to take it off them. They'll let it slip. So we'll find out a lot, which is going to be great.
Yeah, people are just referring to last year.
Yeah,
we were 8-3 at the bye, top 4, and then we fell away and did 3.
But the fixture coming home was a lot harder last year as well.
Opposite.
Yeah,
that was my fault, by the way. They were 8-3. I went on radio and said the Saints could win the flag, and then it went sideways. So Saints fans, you can direct that hate at me. That's fine. It was.
Well, it's good to end the show on a positive note. Thanks, just for my own personal composure. It was very nice.
The season's not over till it's over.
That, just a follow-up question there. So what do we got though? So we've got Geelong out at the moment. Do you guys? Who do you see coming in? Do you see it just being Geelong?
Well, Geelong have got 7 against top 8 teams.
Yeah.
They've got the hardest draw by a mile to finish the season. So if they don't win tonight, I think it is.
They're down by 7 points right now.
What's the score?
They're down by 7. 8-1.
So if they don't win that, I think that puts them back big time.
Yep.
But there's not many out.
If the Swans lose,
I don't
they're
see
2 games
else,
out.
and that's even my mob out with some good draw.
Bombers have been really consistent. The Crows absolutely deserve to make it. Their form has been excellent, and I don't see them losing many at Adelaide Oval.
No, but they've only won 1 game on the road, and it was to us in Tassie. And if Isaac Rankin wasn't sitting in row 6, they wouldn't have won that either.
Yeah, well, they probably should have beaten Collingwood. So.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe in both games.
Yeah,
let alone
both.
Not the first one. There was some blatant free kicks that they got.
We don't need to get into that.
So badly.
We don't need to get into that.
So, like, outside of Geelong getting a run, it's a big chance it's set.
I'll take that.
Good luck picking it. That's all I'll say.
Are we in? We're set?
Well, if we're set, then we play you in the first week of the G.
We're going to have a live watch along.
I'll tell you what I do want, and I'm going to call it now. I don't think the 8 changes from here.
You think it stays exactly the same?
Yeah. Different order potentially, but I'm going to go, I'll back the 4 that are in it.
I'll take that.
Here's what I want for the 3 of us in the room. Sorry, I'll let you go.
I was going to say the only change I could potentially see is Geelong in Bulldogs out.
If Geelong win tonight, if Geelong win tonight, I'll put them in and probably take the Bulldogs out.
Yeah, they're the ones.
Question. Let's say, and I know none of us put this team in, but 6th v 7th, right? You're going to be disappointed because this isn't about the Saints.
Okay. No.
Essendon play Gold Coast at the MCG.
Are we sick?
Elimination final. Right now you are. Yeah. But I'm saying hypothetically, first week of the finals, Essendon play Gold Coast at the MCG. It's going to be the greatest meme off of all time because if Essendon lose, that's Gold Coast's first ever final and first ever finals win.
I don't see a question here.
I'm getting there, sir. And if Essendon win, sure, they broke the finals drought. Do you reckon any other team fan base is going to take that seriously, considering they play?
I don't care. The number stops going up.
So it's really a lose-lose.
It starts again. It starts at 1.
For us, that number stops. Okay.
And it will continue.
I don't even care if we have to beat freaking Dandenong Stingrays to get that drought over. Get it over, goddammit.
If that game happens, I will buy a Gold Coast membership if they win. That would be amazing.
Don't we all want Essendon to finish 4th and go straight sets out? It's be the most.
I'm happy with 5th and lose
at that point. I don't want to.
Thank you. Finally, someone. Jeez. All to the Bombers' expense, mate. What have we done to you?
To be fair,
dream time. Sorry about that, mate. Sorry.
14.
To be fair, though, I can say your goatee looks good and it wasn't out of spite like earlier. So we've all got things, Joe.
We've all got some things. That's true. Oh, mate, thank you so much, guys, for watching. I think that was a long one, but we spoke a lot about a lot of different topics.
Thanks for the run sheet.
Thanks for the run sheet,
man.
Big J, you're an absolute. Thank you. I still haven't received it, but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching.
There was a run sheet.
Apparently there was a run sheet. Guys, it was an absolute pleasure. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, all those wonderful things, and share if you liked what you saw. This has been Joe.
Swiz.
Jake.
Daz.
And this was Fancast. See you in the next one, guys.